Hello guys, welcome to another video. In this video, I want to show you the 10 things that you should do to get the best out of the device. So let's get going. So the first thing you should do is always look to remove the unwanted app that comes with the device. Apple are better than Android when it comes to preloading a lot of bloatwares, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have bloatwares. There are a lot of apps that I get in my device that I don't really like. So I just want to show you how to sort of get rid of that and get your device ready so that you can download the apps that you like. As soon as you open your app, you can touch in an empty area to make them jiggle. So when they jiggle like that, you can hit the minus button to delete them. So for example, in this instance, if I hit the minus button on BBC Sport, it will ask me two options: delete app or remove from home screen. So if you don't want to delete the app, you can just remove from the home screen. So what that does is it puts it back into the library. But it takes time. If you choose to delete it from the home screen, you have to keep hitting the delete button and then choosing the option. So when you click and hold, as it jiggles, hit the bottom right corner of the app library. So that opens the app library. So as soon as it's in the app library, what you can do is you can just start pressing the X button, the X icon here, to remove the unwanted apps that you don't want. So for example, in this instance, I want to remove iTunes. I say delete. I want to remove the books, delete. I want to remove pages, delete. So you see how easy that is to delete them. We can also go and delete if it's stuck in a folder view like that. If you see in the productivity and finance, when it's stuck in folder view, you can click onto this little folder and you can delete that. So for example, I've got the chat GPT. I'm just going to go delete that, and I might delete the Google Drive. So that's like the easiest way to do that. So always delete the unnecessary app. Make sure you skin down the apps and then start to download it. If for whatever reason you wanted those app back, you can always go into the App Store. So you go into the App Store and then you can scroll down and then see the Apple books that you deleted. It has a cloud sign on it. So what the cloud sign means is it has already been downloaded into the device. So if you click onto the cloud sign again, it re-downloads it. So it's pretty simple. So if you ever deleted it and you wanted it back, that's the way to get it back. So the second one is, I want to show you that the nicest way to organize your screen is to then download the apps that you want, the widgets you want. But Apple have given you a space for the widget on the left hand side. So if you scroll to the, if you swipe to the left hand side, there's a page with widgets on it. So if you ever wanted a widget, you can always have them. It just gives it a cleaner look. But if you want to create a widget, tap and hold and then hit the edit button, and then you can add a widget. So in this example, I've got a widget in here for the YouTube, for example. I click and hold, add widget. You see how that widget has come in. But I can also choose to just move that widget into the into this page. So I click and hold there, and then let's say there's a clock. There's different sizes and variations that we've got. So for example, I want to do this one. So that means it's in a nice it's nested in the corner. It doesn't get into the view. Obviously, you can choose how you want, but there is a page that you've got for that, for just for the widgets, and I think that's a much cleaner look as you start decorating your pages. Third thing is the haptic settings. As you may have noticed, as I tried to delete the apps or move things around, it was taking a while. That's because the device is waiting for you to press a little bit harder to make sure that you are actually intending to do what you're doing. Straight off the back, when the screen might feel a little bit unresponsive, that's because the haptic feedback needs to be pressed a little bit longer. To change that, what you need to do is go into your settings, go to accessibility, and then scroll all the way down to see physical and motor section, and then type touch. So in the touch section, you got the haptic touch as your second option. So touch the haptic touch, and you see it's selected the default. So you can select slow if you don't want a fast option, but I would say faster. If you select faster, all that means is you're just pressing and holding for a shorter period of time, and everything just feels really snappy. So for example, in this instance, I touch and hold. It's fairly straightforward and everything is responsive. So make sure you go and change that. The fourth thing I want to show you is your battery settings. So again, come back into the settings, scroll down to the battery menu, click onto the battery, and you will see there's two options in here. You see a battery percentage and you see the low power mode. So what the battery percentage does is it shows you the percentage of the battery that you've got. So in this instance, in my screen, I've got 70%. So if I click on the battery percentage toggle, it removes that. So instead of taking up space for the battery indicator and the percentage, you can get rid of one. But I prefer to have the battery indicator there. The battery percentage is there, so I turn it on. and then you've got the low power mode. If you click on the low power mode, you see your battery icon has turned yellow. That's mainly because the device has decided to effectively optimize and give you power to the app that you're on, therefore turning off few things. We'll come on to that in this video, what the other things is turning off on. So for the time being, we will deactivate the low power mode. And then just in this section, you can see which app has used your battery and how much it has used for. And you can also look at your battery health. So when you go into your battery health, you've got obviously few options in here. The one I want you to change is the 80% limit. So by default, I think your iPad comes with an 80% limit. So that means when you charge, it goes up to 80% and then it stops. This is to ensure that your battery lasts longer. But my test and on my other devices I've showed, it marginally helps you. So I would get that changed. I would not let the device limit itself to 80%. If you're looking to keep the device for 4 to 5 years, maybe have that enabled, but it's only going to charge you to 80%. But deactivate that, go to 100%, use the low power mode. Your device lasts for a longer period of time. It turns off a few things in the background, and therefore you don't have to resort to charging your device to 80%. And then the fifth thing I want to show you is, again, inside the settings, come to general settings, and then if you scroll up, you've got the AirPlay and continuity feature. So if you click on the AirPlay, it asks you automatic AirPlay as the first option, and the default option that the device selected is automatic. What I would do is I would go and change it to ask. That's because in here it says iPad can ask to AirPlay, or when able to automatically AirPlay, connect to nearby speakers and TVs when playing content from apps regularly used with the AirPlay. So again, it's making a decision for you. So if you don't really want the device to automatically connect to another AirPlay compatible device, even inside your house, or let's say you go to a relative's house and it's doing that, make sure the device prompts you, and that's the way you can then override any connection it might do automatically. So the sixth one I want to show you is the camera options. So hit the camera option from the settings menu, and in here you can see a few things. So for example, you can choose to select the quality of the video that you're going to record. So for example, the recorded video 1080p at 30 frames per second. So you can change that to 4K at 30 frames per second. So that changes. So every time you shoot a video, it becomes 4K at 30 frames per second. And you can also do that to quite a few stuff. But one of the things that you should probably change is when you come onto the formats, make sure your camera captures to a high efficiency. I'm not sure you're going to use the iPad much to take photos, but if you're doing that, make sure you use a high efficiency mode. It just reduces the file sizes, especially when you are running out of memories in the later stage of the life cycle. This helps. But the biggest thing I want you to do is come to the composition, and you would have the default option turned off. I would say turn the grid and the level on. What this does is, for example, I'll show you. So if you turn on the camera, all of a sudden the camera has a grid. So if you want to take a photo, you just have to pick it up and center on something that you want to take photo. You see, that's not centered, that's centered, and you get a little level to ensure that you keep it in the middle. So you see, I'm moving it now. The yellow line means it's level, and I bring it to the middle. So I'm quite happy with that, and then I take a photo. So that's really, really good to use on a much larger device. By the way, if you're enjoying what I'm showing you, do follow the channel. Tip number 7 I want to show you is how to reorganize your home screen and app screen. For example, we've seen earlier how you can delete apps fairly quickly, but what happens when you download a new app? When you download a new app, it by default everything gets loaded onto your main screen here. But if you would have noticed, when I downloaded something, so for example, when I download the Apple podcast, for example, here, it's going to download, and then, but it would not appear on the main screen here. That's because I've selected the option to ensure it always downloads into the app library. What this means is you download an app, it stays in the app library as downloaded, but it never comes to the front page, because iOS would always put the app in an empty space that it can find, and sometimes that's not the best position. You want to move it around, or you might want to actually use it as a widget. So the best way to change that configuration is coming into settings, and then within the home screen and app library option, you can say if you see in my screen, newly downloaded apps set to app library only. By default, you would have add to home screen. So for example, let's go and download another app. So in this example, I'm downloading the BBC iPlayer. So once that has downloaded, let's go back in and you see it's on the front of my screen. So what the other option does is if you change it to App Store only, any new downloads would not do that. So tip number 8, I want to show you how you can take screenshots and notes fairly quickly, no matter where you are or which app that you've got open. So for example, when you go on to the settings, you come on to the multitasking and gestures, click on that. And as you scroll down towards the bottom, it has an option, swipe finger from corner. That's deactivated at the moment. What you can do is if you turn it on, it now gives you 2 more new options. Bottom left corner, if you swipe, is going to take a screenshot, and bottom right corner is going to do a quick note. So what that means is if we come onto the main screen, I click from the bottom left and up, you see that's taken a screenshot. Let's go through that one more time. As I swipe up from the bottom corner left hand side, it's taken a screenshot. I can take a pen, I can annotate it, do whatever I want with it, and then save by hitting done, save to photos. So that photo has been saved. So on the bottom right hand corner, as I swipe up from the bottom right hand corner, you get a quick note. So there we go. Like and subscribe if you're still enjoying this content. Right, so 2 more to go. So number 9 is really, really important because you might have downloaded a lot of apps, but you might not want to see it, or you're sharing your iPad with your siblings, you're sharing that with somebody else, you're taking it to uni, you don't want your friends to see all the type of apps that you're using. For me, I think it's really important to sort of keep things private. So what you can do is you can now with iOS 18 hide apps, and you don't want that to appear on your device. But a little caveat here is you cannot hide apps that are made by Apple, but you can hide apps that are made by third-party developers. In order to do that, all you have to do is click and hold onto an app, and it will prompt a message saying require Touch ID. So if you click on require Touch ID, it then asks you the option, do you just want to require Touch ID or do you want to hide and require Touch ID? So the first thing is if you require Touch ID, every time you want to open the app, you have to touch and then it requires the Touch ID, so no one can get inside that. So that could be your banking apps, that could be, you know, any note tabs. I would recommend note tabs just to sort of, you know, keep it away from prying eyes. I would put that behind the Touch ID. If you really want to hide it from somebody, you can touch and hold and click on the require Touch ID again. And then as soon as you require Touch ID, use the second option to say hide and require Touch ID, and then confirm that. And then it will give you a prompt. It will no longer be available on the home screen. As you can see, it's gone off. But if you open your app library towards the bottom right, you can see a section called hidden. And what the hidden section does is it actually hides your app. So if you tap on the hidden section, you have to now give your Touch ID to access that area. So as you can see, I've already hidden 2 apps. I've hidden my Chrome and I've hidden Netflix. I've only hidden this for the purpose of this video. And then the final setting that you want to do, remember how I spoke earlier about remove the 80% limit on the battery? That's mainly because we can do few things like having a low power mode to sort of help us get maximum usage out of our device. So one of the things that I would recommend anyone doing is go into the settings and then go into general and then background app refresh. So this basically shows the background app refresh is enabled. What that means typically is any of the apps that you're using have active in the background is continuing to send and receive signals in the background in the hope that it's always optimized effectively. Whenever you open the app, it's ready to go. But sometimes we don't really need that. Most of the time we're only going to need 2 to 3 apps in the background. But what you actually want to do is turn them off and only have the apps that you really need requesting information in the background. So you have the option to either turn off background refresh altogether. This is not going to impact too much. I think if you open some of the app is going to load, you might see some loading time. Or what you want to do is enable that and then select which app that you want to have access to your background refresh. So for example, in this instance, I don't want Authenticator there, BBC iPlayer, don't want it, BBC Sport. I mean, quite a lot of the apps I don't want. I might want Chrome because I'm using Chrome. I've gone away to probably do a message or start to do some sketching, and I come back and I want to open the same page and I don't want the page to reload again, so I'll leave Chrome. Drive, maybe if you're downloading something, I might leave that. Freeform. Email is something, again, if you turn it off on an email, you might not get any messages because it's not refreshing in the background, but again, you can manually refresh that. So things that I think a little bit suspect in terms of apps that doesn't really require to sort of run in the background, I turn it off. But there's just, again, there's loads of things in here I can take you guys through. If you do like what you see, if you want to see more things like that, do let me know, and I'm more than happy to take you through, but I don't want to drag the video on for too long, so I left you with 10 tips. But do like and subscribe if you want to see more like this. Till then, peace out.